The Georgian Institute for Public Affairs, K1's temporary home in Tbilisi. A corps of television news journalists and program makers has already been hired and work has begun on all fronts, in between the city's frequent power cuts. With temperatures peaking at 100 degrees Fahrenheit outside, it's literally been a hothouse. Among some of the tasty stories that have already been on the station's web menu, this item on Georgia's main export to France. The wholesale harvesting of the frogs from the wild has raised alarm bells amongst the country's conservationists. Our reporter Anastasia shied away from trying them on camera, but tucked into another Georgian export instead.
It's not going to stay green. No.
The head of K1, Robert Parsons, has no doubts about the need for the station or the challenges it faces when it begins broadcasting again at the end of this year.
One of the important things for me about this channel is its intent to try and replace the region, the Caucasus, back in its traditional context. Now, of course, Russia for the last couple of hundred years has been extremely important for the Caucasus and for Georgia, obviously. But so too, traditionally, have been Turkey and Iran. And one of our aims is to bring news about Turkey and Iran to our channel and to the people of the North Caucasus, to remind them that they're not just part of the northern world, they're part of the southern world, which they traditionally and culturally they belonged for hundreds of years. The biggest problem we have in news terms is that getting information out of the North Caucasus is very, very difficult. It's a media nightmare. For a correspondent, it's almost impossible for correspondents to go and work there. It's extremely dangerous. So we're going to have to use every possible method that we can, every new technology that we can, to try and get information out of there and broadcast it back to the region. Our audience is potentially enormous. We're talking about potentially 270 million people all over the former Soviet Union. Now, of course, we're not going to be able to reach all of them. Not all of them are going to want to watch us. But that's potentially a huge pool of people for us to tap into, and that's what our aim is.
This past week has seen no shortage of the kind of stories that will be the daily diet of K1's news bulletins. 4 half-hour shows each evening. Here, the attack on the Chechen leader's home village.
Люди, в которых в оружии в руках, мы их всех уничтожили. Это 12 трупов у нас есть.
The message from the insurgents to Kadyrov was clear and spelt out on their websites. You can run, but you can't hide. It was the largest and most audacious attack launched this year. One of the villagers claimed the dead men shown here in this footage and identified as insurgents were in fact young men who'd been held in Kadyrov's private prison in the village. In Iran, the parliament was preparing to discuss a bill that would allow men to marry additional wives without the consent of their first wife. Women's rights activists say it would be another setback in their battle against discriminatory laws in the Islamic Republic. Much closer to home, we'd also have highlighted an anti-government protest in Georgia. Internally displaced people from the breakaway Republic of Abkhazia have sewn their lips together in a demonstration against being evicted from buildings in Tbilisi, which are being sold off to private developers. And of course, in Moscow, the remarks of Prime Minister Putin threatening to cudgel the heads of those taking part in unauthorized opposition rallies. He proved to be as good as his word. Article 31 of Russia's constitution guarantees freedom of assembly. He also hinted that he would be back and running for president again in 2012 in an interview with a Russian newspaper. Expect a lot more photocalls like this one in front of a tame press in the coming months.
Кто вам позволит там проводить этот марш? Из местных властей. И правильно сделают, что запретят. Нет.
The The last thing we're going to be is the propaganda arm of the government for several reasons. First of all, before I came here, I made it absolutely clear that the condition of my coming was that it would not be a propagandistic channel at all, that it had to be the understanding that if we went down that path, we would never achieve our aims. And I think that is perfectly understood.
This is the building in the centre of Tbilisi where K1 is setting up its studios and offices. A team of painters and decorators are already hard at work. We hope to move in by the end of the month, but it will take a bit longer before we've got all the equipment needed to start broadcasting. The large studio will be shared between the station's news and programming division. The final design and branding is still being worked on. Taking a tour with the head of the channel are two of K1's team of newscasters.
What this region really lacks is news as it is. And this is something that this region never had. We had news from Kremlin, we had news about Kremlin, we had news pro, contra, I don't know, well actually not really contra, but mostly pro. But in any case, we only had controlled news. And this time it's going to be the first time when there will be news that are not controlled by someone else. It's simply news. And this is cool.
It's like a best drug in the world. When you're a journalist, when you're working in TV journalism, it's your life. And to be honest, this television station and the future of this television station, this is my life. And all of us, we are a big team, big family, which is going to handle all of the problems that we're going to have. Yes, it's going to be difficult, complicated, everyday challenges, everyday work, everyday fights. But this is what we like, this is what we love, and this is what we are living for. Yeah, it's going to be fun.
In Georgia's Pankisi Gorge, where no law is above tradition, no man can challenge the authority of a woman called Altsane, the one chosen to guide them through life and death. It's a documentary by a Georgian filmmaker, one of a pool of talent being scouted by K1's programming division. Out of the 6 hours of broadcasting each night on the station, they will be responsible for 2/3 of the output, split between documentary strands, acquisitions, and studio shows. It is perhaps by far the most difficult and ambitious task we've set ourselves. And the one in the hot seat, in charge of it all, is Melanie Anstey.
But I would say we would assume our audience is pretty cultured, is intelligent, is interested in thinking. I would say, if we were to draw parallels, I would say we're sort of Al Jazeera English because we're very information-based. On the other hand, we're also Arte because we expect our audience to be pretty cultured and well-educated. And I would say we're possibly also a little bit BBC4. So it's the sort of the thinking person's television channel. But we also try and be entertaining. So we won't get bogged down in thinking. We will also enjoy, and we will also have programs that are well produced and directed in an interesting and contemporary and dynamic way.
Last, but by no means least, is the web portal the station is setting up. It's being designed by Zurab Korolashvili, a veteran war cameraman who is used to surviving when the odds are stacked up against him. The rules of cyber warfare dictate him keeping his plans close to his chest, but I did manage to squeeze a few words out of him.
I think I can do something more for this country, and not only for Georgia, but for this region. And other thing about experience, yeah, I have lots of experience working in news organizations like BBC News or like CNN or Sky, but I work mainly like cameraman, or editor, or field producer, but of course it's completely new experience now. new. I mean, I'm in charge of big department. We're building together new type of news channel, and of course it's hard, but I'm excited. I'm tired, but I'm excited.
Very big kiss. Mwah! It's going to be a steep climb bringing together all the plans for this channel, but K1 intends to shine a new light on the Caucasus. Help us achieve that ambition.